Jess, how was your pee break?
My pee break?
It might flash you. Untamed.
Random, baby.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me. Quite an intro.
Let's address the elephant in the room. That's not the elephant in the room. There's no elephant. Nobody cares.
I, too, am a thought criminal. Good. Well, I like you already.
Does this look like a girl who's joking around?
No.
But how much do you actually understand money? Especially the new wave.
Beauty or intelligence. When you unleash both, it is men's kryptonite. Welcome to Talk to Me, Taylor. Okay, we are recording. Here we fucking go, guys. Today I have somebody who needs to be brought out from, who like operates in the shadows, but has literally been everywhere. Okay, I'm talking White House, CIA, to somehow A-list celebrity publicity, and he has stories, and we are just cracking up because he was saying normally he's on the other side of this. This is the first, not the first, but one of a handful of times that he is, on the other side of the camera. So Jeff Gulko, we actually connected because you're James Mazzo's publicist, and I just had James on the show. So welcome to my domain, and you're not showing the people, but you also have gym shorts on, and if you feel like sharing it with the people, we just let it all out here. So I just blew your cover.
Gym shorts on. She's lying.
He's like fake news.
Fake news.
Welcome to the show, Jeff. Do you miss me? Because we got coffee in Nashville all of like 48 hours ago, but I know you miss me.
No, I have missed you. Yeah, I've been counting this down. We do this.
No, I know. I heard you crying.
My last text message to a friend was wish me luck, and hopefully this isn't career ending for me.
Well, let's see.
Yeah.
Okay. First off, because you have literally been everything everywhere all at once. Okay. I like to start, big picture. So you literally have, and you also are just like a media marketing mastermind. Hence your story of kind of like stumbling into the White House when you were 20 and most kids were doing like beer funnels in their
19,
frats. Okay.
19.
He's fact checking me like a Mark Zuckerberg fact checker never could. But before we get to that, okay, Jeff, talk about the big picture of media and culture when it comes to celebrity, politics, all of it. Twofold. One end of it, how from everything you've seen, like you just look at it going, wow, something's never changed. And then on the other end, what is the most different?
I think the most different thing right now, I think it's most frustrating to me, is that there is no unbiased media anymore.
I know.
I look back at the days at the White House when, I worked for, two members of the cabinet directly, and you spent your weekends going to the weekend morning shows, and you didn't just go to one side. We went to Bill O'Reilly, we went to Fox. People weren't afraid, and people at the same time were able to get news. Granted, Fox was always slanted right, CNN was slanted left.
Sure.
There is no more just unbiased, unopinionated. It's all editorial. And for someone like me, about half my business is on the celebrity music side, half of it is the corporate side, and I couldn't be more frustrated right now on the corporate side, because some of these networks will spend, if it's a 3-hour morning show, they leave 35-40 minutes for everybody in the world to compete to get their clients on there. And they'll spend 2.5 hours talking about Donald Trump.
Well, okay, people, what do you think, Jeff? Because before I get to, because I do want to know where you just look at the state of things being like, wow, something's never changed. But before that, I get asked this all the time, which is, do you think we will ever get back to that purely unbiased place? And I'll be honest, I think it's too far gone at this point to where I almost think you have to pull a Chris Cuomo and just like wear it on, because we know now it's like, who's truly unbiased, or am I crazy?
No. We're at a point of no return.
Exactly.
I'm not going to say here, but an example is when the hospital got bombed in Tel Aviv, a few months ago. I just was checking all of the major networks' websites, and all of them had at least something about it. One network, I'm going to say it, MSNBC. It's fact. It's out there. MSNBC I was scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. There wasn't a single mention of it. And I checked with someone there. I sent them a text and I said, hey, why aren't you guys mentioning this? And they go, oh, we let NBC do that. But the concern and the fear and the issue with that is, let's say someone only watches MSNBC. You're missing a huge potential thing in the news. Granted, that was international. It could be something domestic. It could be something large. It could be something small. It could be tornado warnings. Who the fuck? Can we swear on here?
Fuck yeah! I was trying to be more of a lady, but that didn't really work. But I tried. Okay. We're both we both hail from New England area, right? So.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm asshole. Proud of it.
We try.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And sometimes it could literally be the most mundane story and it still has such a slant that it is insulting to our intelligence, all the way up to big things. You're exactly right. That's why I think, as much as I'd love to see it just be straight up news, I totally agree. I think that just genie has been let out of the bottle. But what are some things, or one thing maybe, that you look at, maybe it's politically, because you were in the White House at such a young age, or maybe it is with celebrity culture, I don't know, where you just kind of shake your head and you're like, wow, some things just never change?
I would say the thing that I think caught me most by surprise, and I used to say it like as a joke when I first started doing stuff in the music industry, and the more and the longer I've been in there, I say it's actually pretty fair. I always felt that the most like political, backstabbing environment I could ever work in would be when I was sitting at the White House. And then I entered the music industry and said, wow, this is a lot more political. There's a lot of backstabbing going on.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a real eye-opener. And for me, I came in like all guns blazing. Like, I remember I came to Nashville and I was used to calling, when you're calling a place and you're calling from the White House, people take the call and they typically do what they want you to do. And when you're at the CIA, people definitely do what you want them to do for the most part. My problem was I came into the city just expecting, I still was acting in that way. And I definitely rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, where I had to pretty much go on a little bit of an apology tour of my own for a while, just saying, hey, if I was a dick when I first came here, I apologize. I didn't know how this worked, just because, I remember I was working with an independent artist, and within like 3 months, I got her on the Today Show, and my mind was like, oh, cool, let's hire the tour buses, let's go buy a new car. Like, she's made it. And then all of a sudden, a radio station back in her home state wouldn't play her song. And rather than like just listening, I was saying, like, what do you mean? Like, I'm getting all aggressive. Like, that's bullshit. And they're like, hey, that's not going to fly here in the world of country music. Simmer down, son.
So it's like the bless your heart politics of the industry. I see that here. It could be territorial. I mean, obviously we saw it in Hollywood and Nashville. It kind of like trickled.
Extremely territorial. I mean, I think it happens most with, people that, someone's working with an artist and someone tries, I've had this, I've been backdoored a few times. Actually, that's how I've been backdoored, someone trying to work with a client of mine. But yeah, it's like anything. It's a competitive landscape, which obviously fosters that. For me, it was just initially because I was singing country music, and it was, going to be this whole like family-oriented values, and I came and was like, okay, this is a little more aggressive than I thought.
What do you think?
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, Jeff, I think it's so fascinating, but also not surprising that you make that parallel between politics and entertainment and the music industry and just the cutthroat nature. So what do you kind of boil it down to? Is it just like power hungry people and ego? And, what do you...
I think there's a lot of power hungry and ego people, in the industry. I think, the other part of the sentence that I used to say to people is, I thought that the last and only time I deal with terrorists was at the CIA when I was dealing with Al Qaeda directly. And there are some program directors out there at some of these stations that are harder to deal with than freaking members of Al Qaeda back then.
Wow.
And I think there is a little bit of a, like in any, but you have that in any field. You could go to a hospital right now and there could be, some surgeons that have God complexes, and it could be doctors that are just there to, treat the patient and, have great bedside manner. So it's everywhere. Again, to me, I'm not here to shit on country music, country radio.
No, of course.
10 years, and my best friends and, are all in this industry, and I've stayed. I mean, so it's not been that bad, but it definitely, but it's a learning curve, like any industry. And, I can't sing, I can't dance, and true story, the only freaking instrument I play, and I'm not going to do it. I do this normally on Zooms to piss people off. Is I bought remember the recorders we used
How
to
could
play?
I forget?
Yeah,
Hot
I'm not
crust
playing today.
buns.
However, next interview, but
Hot crust buns. Yeah, we need to make like an OnlyFans for you playing the recorder, and I want royalties. So.
in my gym shorts,
In your gym shorts, wearing all those credentials, by the
wearing
way,
all the credentials.
like as pasties. Your Al Qaeda, that is so funny. That actually triggered kind of an impromptu question, which is, I was having a conversation yesterday with a friend, and also kind of where I see parallels. Again, I obviously have worked the inner working of Hollywood, as have you, but I have not in politics. But obviously, you know how it is, how everything is really, I mean, this is your world, how messages are so curated. And now, even yesterday, again, having a casual conversation with a friend, just talking about how the distrust in messaging in the government is just like at an all-time high. So without giving away all your secrets, I mean, again, being in the inner working, what do you make of that? Like, are you distrustful? Are you understanding of people being like, yeah, I could see why you guys are asking questions, right? Whatever it is about, whatever the topic.
I don't believe so. Me personally, I operate under two things. One is when you work for yourself, right? You don't have an opportunity, not even once. I mean, I've been on my own for 18 years. So all you have is your name, and you can't compromise that, right? You break trust once, especially in a town like this, and you're done. You might as well pack up and go home. So I myself personally, I will not compromise my integrity or my honesty. It's a non-negotiable with me, and it's a non-negotiable with me with people I work with. I mean, I've stopped working with people because there's a broken of trust, and maybe sometimes I'm a little too black, white, no gray area. But I totally understand why people distrust the media. I just trust the media. I don't watch. To be honest with you, I don't watch anymore because I just I found that, and I find that the majority of it is I can't change it. I'm not, when we're in that world every day and you're working in politics, you care a lot because it's your job, right? And I think I told you over coffee, I know a lot of people that are against the actual, the standpoint or the way that policy, let's say president takes, right? I know people that worked in previous administrations that couldn't stand the way the administration was going with the policy, but having that job is so important. Flying on Air Force One is so important.
Yeah.
Bringing friends to state dinners, all that shit. They look the other way and they have these crazy blinders on. And that wasn't me. That's why when I left, I was at the White House during the Monica scandal. And I say this to my parents sometimes, and I'm probably gonna get in trouble with them, or maybe I just won't tell them about this so they won't see it. My parents had trouble with a recent president, and they would say, "Oh, so he had affairs," and I would say to them, "How come you had no problem coming to the White House taking pictures with Bill Clinton while he was in the middle of having an affair with someone that could have been your daughter?" And I think it's I think the hypocrisy. I think the greatest threat to anything in this entire world is hypocrisy. And whether it's the media, whether it's us individually, people are we don't know how to just communicate with each other anymore. It's if you have a different opinion, you're a piece of shit, or you got to be.
Yeah.
If all of a sudden, I just had this happen. I went on a date, right? And I didn't get a second date because the person said, "Oh, I'll never date anyone that's MAGA, that supports Trump." Because I went on to say that as a Jewish person, I think he's done tremendous work, and he's been the greatest president for the Jewish people in Israel ever. But everyone's so closed-minded right now. There's no room for that.
There's no parsing it out or just
that
seeing
was the end
anything
of
for
it.
what it
It
is.
was
Yeah.
I couldn't, because I gave just a little bit of praise. I wasn't out there tattooing Trump on my chest. I was just saying what he's done for
right.
Jewish people, and that was it. But you're a red hat wearer. You're crazy.
Jeff, look at even like Jimmy Kimmel's wife and I don't know if you saw that whole story, just like disowning every family member, whatever, like that whole thing. And I'm like, this is like alarming because I didn't realize she's also a writer on his show, but it's just so insidious and like so deep. And you talk about hypocrisy. I mean, if I had a badge for every Hollywood hypocrisy I would be like having 2 of your little collections back there, just like literally. I mean, it just goes on for days. Yeah. And you're so right too about people compromising. I mean, come on, how many times have we seen it in Hollywood and politics? That's why, like, not to get too political, but even like in a current example, I really give kudos to someone like an MTG who's like, I'm not going to compromise what I believe, where so many people in politics are such sellouts that half the time, even pundits too, like I'm always like, do they actually believe this shit? You're exactly right, to protect their
they want their jobs, they want to present it. Hey, listen, like, you look at and I do a lot of work with members of Congress, and I mean, I have clients that I get paid to set up meetings with members of Congress. The majority of Congress couldn't hold a job at Starbucks for more than 3 hours. Like there's no accountability. There's no, and that's no dig at Starbucks people, but there's no accountability. And in the real world, they'd be fired, but they play the game. They want to preserve their pension. They want to, continue. But it is, if Congress is actually running any company, the company would be sunk in a matter of hours.
Wow. He's like, no shade to Starbucks. Well, with that said, because you are so about integrity.
So I don't drink coffee, so I guess like it doesn't matter.
He's like, I'm fine. He's like, I'm not a matcha person either. Since you are all about integrity, as is James Maslow, and we talked about this, who is such a breath of fresh air in such a contrived, overly uptight Hollywood, which is, I told you, why a big part of why I left, because I couldn't even have a real conversation with any of these people. How do you advise, honestly, your celebrity clients? Because everybody is so afraid. Sadly, it's like we'd like to think cancel culture is done, but I think it's still, the trickling effects are still there. So how do you advise them? Because I'm sure half of the time, I mean, someone like James, I feel like he just does not care, which I love and so respect. But what's your guidance? How do you walk that line with them?
First and foremost, I mean, James is honestly, I mean, I absolutely love the guy. And I say kid because he's younger than me, but I mean, I've run through a wall for him, and it's because, he's out from the norm, right? There's so many people, that, I mean, we're talking about, what happened in Israel October 7th, but 99.9% of Jewish, celebrities, people that had a platform, just hid, right? For whatever their reason was. They were afraid of losing money, losing opportunity. Then you have someone like James, who is just as much at risk of losing opportunities. He's in a band. He's in a band with 3 other members that aren't Jewish. He has, people that are on the team that aren't Jewish and might not understand it. But, he made a decision that he's going to stand up and do the right thing. It comes with consequences. I mean, I don't know if he discussed with you, but he gets death threats because of me and my association with him. And I repost his stuff or I'm in his videos. Every few weeks I get a death threat. But, at the end of the day, he's going down and I'm going down, I'd rather go down the right side of history. And with him, like we do, I mean, we'll sit there sometimes and say, like, well, we don't just do everything willy-nilly and go, hey, we're just going to do everything. We'll at least sit there and say, hey, you know what?
Sure.
What's the worst that could happen? But on the flip side, we know that by taking a stand, and we know by speaking out, and we know by not hiding like a lot of these people, he is having an impact. We are having an impact. Just today, I mean, we haven't even posted about it yet. He just came from the House of Lords in London. Like, he's there for a show tomorrow in the British House of Lords. The British Parliament has taken notice what a pop artist from the United States is doing to combat anti-Semitism, and invited and had a private event for him today, took him for a private tour, but actually sat down and had meaningful discussion. They want him to come back.
So cool.
It's freaking, I had this scheduled with you, and there was no way I was going to fucking miss this. So I said, I can't come to London for the Lords. I'm sorry. I got this interview scheduled.
Wow. God, I mean, no pressure. Now I definitely can't fuck up your career, or I'm going to have hell to pay. Career-ending interview. No, but it's so true. I have to tell you, over the weekend, and I was in Miami hosting Bit Basel, and I travel alone, and I'm petite. You've met me, and you know, sometimes I wonder just with the state of things, like, do I wear, I think James and I talked about this, but like, do I even wear my Star of David out in public? Like, I just don't trust anybody. And I'm not a person who lives in fear, but you know, it's that palpable. And I have to tell you, I wore it. And I'm with like, I mean, there's like all kinds of tech and spirit, all kinds of people. And so many people were like, yeah, I love, whether it was like in the shadows or outwardly, like, I love it. Yes, we're so proud of you. Keep going. Like, here's mine. Like, they're hiding theirs under their shirt, being like, you know, so that makes me feel really, really good.
And I'll tell you, it's funny you say that, right? So, I mean, I wear always out, right? But last night, I was at a gas station somewhere between here and Alpharetta, Georgia. I was driving back, and it was a gas station that had a Subway in it. It was literally a true story last night. And I just ordered like a sub to hold me over for the ride. And the woman behind the counter, I'm in the middle of nowhere. Like, and she says, "I like your necklace," right? And I thought to myself, like, I could just say thank you, or I could actually go like a little level deeper. And I explained to her, I said, "Oh, thank you." I said, "Actually," I said, "Are you familiar with October 7th?" And she had a little puzzle. I said, "Well, you remember the attacks that took place?" "Oh, yeah." I said, "The star was actually made from a rocket that was fired into Israel, intended to kill."
Yeah.
It did it, and then they've taken it and they've turned it into these beautiful pieces, and the money from the sales goes to the victims' families.
Yeah.
And she looked at me and she started crying, and she said, "Can I give you a hug?" And I said, and at this point, after 2 years of like everyone hating on us, I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I mean, it's like it's got to be like a fake show or something. Like, I'm in a Subway in a gas station in the middle of nowhere. And she'll give you a hug, and she's like, "I just don't understand why everybody just can't love one another." And it was the most profound moment I've had in a long time. It was from a woman I wasn't expecting it to. And we had this bond, but at the same time, like, my parents say to me all the time, like, "Please don't wear it out." They didn't like they didn't like when I was wearing the Free the Hostages Now thing, right? For 2 years, the toga thing. But I said to my parents, I'm like, when you hide, like, that's why you end up having things like the Holocaust, right? And threats are scary. I mean, especially post Charlie Kirk. But I've always worked in. I have a little bit of a different sense, and maybe I've become numb, and that's not a good thing. But I've always worked in like a threat environment, right? So like when you're traveling with the president, you're in the bubble, right? You're walking next to the no one in the world gets more threats than the president of the United States.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
You're walking with him. You're in a motorcade. You're on a plane, and you're just praying. You're praying that the Secret Service agents and every countermeasure that's taking place will keep you safe, right? Then I went from that to I went to work at the CIA. During that work, so now I'm working in a physical target, right? Every day you gotta drive in, and you're going through like multiple layers of guys with fingers on the trigger of the machine gun.
Yeah, so you're like,
then you're on a presidential campaign, and so I've always been in that thing. I just never thought now. I think I told you when we met, like, we were actually talking to Charlie Kirk. Like, he reached out to James a few weeks before and said, "Hey, I love what you're doing with the anti-Semitism. I want to help you out, buddy." And I'd worked with Charlie on of all things, a nasal spray. I'm out of where the government was coming after a nasal spray company. And I think that it definitely brought it home to myself, because then you're like, oh shit, because you always just thought like, oh, it's a threat, oh, it's someone DMing you. But you don't know, and you got to be vigilant, because what you don't know is that person like a keyboard commando, some loser that's living with his mom in the basement? You
don't know.
Or a home in Oklahoma?
Right.
Or
is it legit?
Somebody that's so pissed off at me or has seen something of yours, right? And maybe they're at the Virgin Hotel, a few blocks away right now, just waiting for me to.
I'm telling you,
on Midtown, and you don't
trust. I don't trust anybody. I love you. That's all so fascinating. And I love you. It really stuck with me too when you told me that about Charlie reaching James just shortly before he was killed. And I'd like to think it's just a testament to like who he was and what he was doing. And I would like to think in our own ways we can kind of like pass the torch and carry on, what he was doing and what he was trying to do. And I think that's, a really beautiful thing. Before we wrap here, is there some like general things that you cannot talk about that are just off limits when it comes to your experience with the CIA?
Oh, I have a whole lot of them. I'll actually see if I get up. I'm going to see you on gym shows. Anyways, what was hanging up on the wall there, but I had to switch it before, is so for the first little under 2 years, I was undercover. So when I first went to apply, so first off, people say, like, when they meet me, right, especially here in Nashville, they think I'm kidding because they're like, what are you fucking talking about? You worked at the CIA. But the same thing goes for, there's not a day when I don't either like sit and watch TV or lie in bed at night and just go, did that happen? Like, how did that happen? Like, how did a Jewish kid from a suburb with super overprotective parents, who was up until that point like afraid of his own shadow, how did I end up there in the middle of like the global war on terror? And the short story is, I got laid off from Hill and Knowlton PR right after 9/11. Well, right after. And I went and had lunch with Bill Richardson, who was the energy secretary that I was the personal assistant for during Clinton administration. And he said to me, he's like, why don't you, do you still have your security clearance from the White House? And I said, yeah, it's still active. And he said, why don't you go apply at the CIA? And I said to him, I said, you've gotten to know my very two overprotective Jewish parents over the last 2 years. That will never fly. And he looked at me dead in the face and he said, you'll be undercover and no one will know. And that's exactly what it was for the first 2 years. What I have hanging on that wall, not read the second, is it was the actual typewriter, on a typewriter back day. It was the request and the granted of me to come out from cover and be able to be myself and my real name again. Because I wasn't.
Wow.
Yeah, it was, but when you leave there, you sign a lot of paperwork.
I'm sure.
A lot of paperwork.
I'm sure.
And, when you leave a company, it's like, hey, you won't share our trade secrets, or hey, you won't go work for a competitor for 6 months or a year. That paperwork that I signed said till death.
Yeah.
Like, it actually says till death. Like, so from my, like, the days of CIA, I can talk about a good portion of it, but not in any great detail. Some things like I was working on this thing called the HVT program, high value target. That HVT in itself was classified. Those three letters together were a classified thing. You couldn't talk about them on the outside. Then it became declassified. There's TV shows, right? All these TV shows where crime shows, they're on the HVT team. So it is a wishy thing, but what was strange and the hardest thing about that is I could be out, right? And you could know me as Jeff, but the person over here knows me as what my cover name was.
Wow.
And you're there. And it became, for me, somebody who has an extremely big conscience, somebody who finds it extremely hard to lie, like someone who I'm so like, it became hard because you go to it happened all the time. Like, I'd go to like a barbecue at a friend's house in the summer, and I'd be like, hey, oh, fuck it. My first name was Lloyd.
Oh my God. So it was like everything from your name to like terrorism and war and like the big, big things that you, I'm sure even still you're like, is this crossing a line? Is this like, does this count?
I had a car, I had a take-home government car, but I had 4 sets of license plates. And then depending on what I was going to do that morning or where, determine like what plates I put on. Now, true story, I was living in an apartment building, and for the first like few weeks, this old lady that lives, no offense to old women, but this old lady that lived on like the 3rd floor, she kept calling the Arlington County Police Department on me because she thought I was stealing license plates off cars. Oh,
that's funny.
And I finally went into CIA one morning. I'm like, listen, like, I can't, like, from what they're paying me, like, I can't afford to get this into a garage. I'm not, this is your car. This isn't my car. Like, we're going to have a problem because every time the police come and ask me, like, what I'm doing where I work, I'm lying, right? I cannot say, oh, I work at the CIA. Like, so if I'm telling my car, like, technically I'm lying to a law enforcement officer. So I told them, I think the only solution is going to be to get me.
That's crazy.
Oh yeah, I got one speeding ticket on my entire stupid life, and it's because I got pulled over driving the CIA one day, and I knew I was not in the wrong, and I went back and did my own little investigation. There's no way it's radar and shit, and the problem is, in order to go fight a ticket, it was a whole process because if I go to a court, and the first thing the judge says, "Where were you going that morning?" I'm not saying in front of a room full of people waiting for the traffic tickets, I was going to CIA.
That's so crazy because I would think it's like, see, like it's all not one and the same, but it's like the fact that you even from the law enforcement, from the police, had it. That's so crazy to me. And I imagine, and I have to wrap us here in a minute, but I imagine that from what you've seen, it's a plethora of stuff. I imagine that the overall sort of mindset, again, even if it is, you know, like what we talked about, people just doing things or cutthroat or keeping their jobs, I imagine the overall mindset is just like, we do what needs to get done. Like we're doing what needs to be done, basically.
No,
just
exactly.
sort of.
It's funny you say that because it happens to be on my desk and it's been here for years and it's appropriate for this. So these, as I said, like these are earned and you can't buy these, and it's on the bottom of my screen. So we'll end with this.
Wow.
Now I've just pissed off every member of ISIS. ISIS doesn't watch this show.
I want one. I think it's okay. I mean,
does your demographic go into the terrorists?
I think it's okay. I always say, I'm sorry, guys, for being mean to Hamas too. I don't know what got over me. I mean, I'm so sorry I offended Hamas as well. Lastly, before you go, tell everybody your funny Bill Clinton tie photograph.
Oh shit!
You don't have to show us if you don't have it, but just tell everybody because I feel like that's a funny little window into your world.
Hold on. All right, as I'm telling the story, I think it's right. I think it's on my Instagram.
Like you Forrest-Gumped it basically through.
Yeah. So politics. The story goes, I was traveling a lot with Bill Clinton at a very young age. That sounds creepy. But anyways, I was traveling with Clinton, and I was in Atlanta with him, and it just so happened to be the same day that Monica Lewinsky was testifying for Ken Starr. And what then was later in the press, like I didn't know that day, but later in the press, it was that Clinton wore this tie that Monica bought him as a gift. And the whole storyline was going to be that even though I can't be with you as you're going through this horrible thing today, know that when you see me traveling, you know, I'm going to have the tie you gave him. And that way, you know, I'm thinking of you. And trying to find it right now. It is the absolute best. Like in all my years there, it's my absolute best picture with Bill Clinton. And yeah, you can chop this up, right? If you need extra time.
Nope, this is airing live actually. So
we're live right now?
No, not it will air live, but it's not live right now. But no, I don't edit it.
Okay. I don't know why this is not. Hold on. Oh, we might be getting closer because
the pressure.
No, I'm seeing pictures of me and Joe Biden. I see the picture of Barack Obama where he's yelling at me and he looks like he's spitting at me. Oh, here we go. I got it, folks.
He's got it.
Hold on.
And so the tie.
That tie. So that's me and him having a moment. And that was the tie that Monica Lewinsky bought him. And he wore on that day so that she would know if she saw it on the TV or the news that he was thinking of her.
Can't make it up. Forrest-Gumped, i.e. Jeff Gulko. Jeff, thank you for coming on and, you know, getting the spotlight you deserve and doing the Lord's work behind the scenes.
I appreciate it. If I go missing, I'm blaming it. I'm blaming this show. I managed to live through so much other stuff that we didn't even get to. Then, yeah.
I know. Next time.
Yeah, always.
We'll leave it. I like it. It's like dating, you know. We have to like leave it up to the imagination for the folks and like leave them wanting more. You know.
No. I mean, the true story is we've not even scratched the surface. For example, I can't go to Russia.
Oh yeah.
For another story.
Putin has it out, I guess, for Jeff. Jeff, when your tell-all memoir comes out, I better be the first interview. That's all I have.
You're
to
the
say.
forward.
Yeah, that part. It's on recorded now, so you can't get out of it. Thank you, Jeff Gulko, so much. So fun.
All right, see you.
Appreciate you. Bye.
Chris, how was your pee break?
My pee break?
They might flash you undetected.
Random, baby.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. Quite an intro.
Let's address the elephant in the room. That's not the elephant in the room. There's no elephant. Nobody cares.
I too am a thought criminal. Good. Well, I like you already.
Does this look like a girl who's joking around?
No.
But how much do you actually understand money, especially the new wave?
Beauty or intelligence? When you unleash both, it is men's kryptonite.